The Bear Essentials podcast gives older bears a place to gather for real talk regarding topics and issues that they can relate to. Here at The Bear Essentials, we aren't just having conversations. We are looking to provide actionable intelligence through real-life experience and expertise of our guests. Our mission is to build a strong community that elevates and motivates people to go beyond their limiting beliefs by helping them realize that getting older is not an excuse to hibernate on their goals, but a reason to work harder.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Wallace. Today's guest is a fitness expert, and he has played a vital role in helping many, many people regain their health. So it gives me great pleasure to bring to you my interview with Luke DePron. But first, a word from our sponsor. Wolfinger Consulting, experts who have achieved real results for their clients, including complying efficiently and successfully with overwhelming discovery orders, passing difficult third-party security audits, and deploying bleeding-edge technology platforms to control and preserve corporate information. Let them show you what Wolfinger Consulting can do for you. Be sure to check out their webpage at wolfingerforensics.com. Hey, Luke, how's it going? How you been? Thanks for joining.
My pleasure. Doing awesome.
Yeah, I could tell as soon as you jumped on the screen. I've been having a bit of a tough day, and you jumped on, and my energy level automatically raised. So that's a positive. We'll see if we can keep it going. So thank you for that. Would you mind? I want to let you do the honors. Let's do a brief introduction to the audience before we jump in here.
Sure. So my name's Luke DePron. I'm based out of San Diego by way of Illinois. I am a men's online fitness and performance coach. I come from a background of done everything in the industry from personal training to corrective exercise to sport performance to what I do now, where I basically help businessmen and entrepreneurs. Most of them are coming, they need to lose 20 pounds or more, but it's really helping them step into some lifelong sustainable health and fitness solutions.
So I'll start with, let's jump a little bit in. You said you've done a lot. Let's jump in a little bit. I don't need the long version, but let's give the short version. How do you kind of start to get into this industry? Obviously, can tell right away when I met you online, you're fit, which is always a good thing. I want my fitness people to be fit right off the bat, right? So yeah, how'd you get into this?
I think like a lot of people in this industry, like there was a fitness first component, right? Like sports were important to me. And we can talk about this actually being one of the problems I see in the industry is you have all of these fitness obsessed people in this industry. So for me, I grew up enjoying athletics and wasn't ever a high level athlete by any means. And then when I went to college, I was going to school for business. And I realized sitting in an accounting class how much I hated the subject and thought about what am I spending my free time on? And I was reading about nutrition. I was reading about exercise. And so my fourth year in college, I switched majors to the kinesiology department, which is the study of movement, which meant I got to go into like the phys lab and do all that kind of stuff. Not really knowing what I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be able to pair a passion and an interest and an ability to help and kind of serve people, which is also something that to me has a lot of meaning in my work. And so that was kind of where it started, was that degree. And then from there, I got into some personal training, and I actually injured my back and crawled into a chiropractic office, a physical therapy and chiropractic office, and really cut my teeth there. I ended up working there as their corrective exercise specialist. So I got to do a lot of rehab work there, really kind of hone some biomechanical skills there, working with people who have some severe limitations. All of a sudden your game has to get really tight as far as movement skills go. And then eventually through working and joining a business mastermind, I really kind of figured out the folks that I was really looking to serve and help, which were these business guys who are they're pretty stressed. They're working really hard, but they've kind of sacrificed they've sacrificed health for wealth. And these kind of became the tribe of guys that I was able to really start to help, because kind of like me, I like exercise, but it's like, it's not my whole life. I don't want to obsess about it. It's something I do. It's more of like a foundational brushing my teeth type thing. And these guys kind of fit that mold to where they knew they needed to be healthy, they knew they needed to be fit, but at the same time, they have bigger fish to fry. They're working on some big goals, some big businesses. And so for me, that was like the perfect, the perfect client that really kind of matched where I was at with exercise, as far as, hey, it should be something that supports our life, not something that takes over it.
Yeah, that's and well, I'll tell you, when we connected on LinkedIn and we talked about you coming on the show, I think one of the things that I noticed right away, and I do get a lot of people will reach out, fitness, and they're always trying to. It feels like they're always trying to sell me something, or they want to come on to just all they want to do is promote. And I try to be careful.
Yep.
And when I met you, I'm like, you know what, authentic guy. This is the kind of guy I like to talk to. And honestly, I also like to talk to guys like you because you're helping guys who, like myself. That's where I was. It was, I'll say this though. I don't think I was trading health for wealth. I was just trading my damn health for having a job, period, which is really bad, And you mentioned about your back. I know I went through the back, I went through the weight. Just people that listen, I've lost close to 100 pounds, but it was about regaining all that. And that's why I think it's important to have guys like you on the show, because I want to get that message out there to people. And I think it's very authentic individuals like yourself who can do it. Luke, the range of men or women, whoever comes to you, do you deal with kind of that middle ground, or do you get it all over the place where sometimes it's really like for me, for example, when I walked in to see my trainer, he literally tells me now, my first thing was I couldn't break you anymore. Like I just had to tread so carefully, right? Like what's the range of people that come to you? Is it that bad? Is it in the middle, or is it all over the place?
It is all over the place. And first off, hats off to your trainer for recognizing that. That's great to hear. So it does tend to be a little all over the place. There often is usually a weight loss goal. That's like the starting point. It is gentlemen who've put on some weight. They often don't really know where to begin. Usually pretty overwhelmed with the process. And it's really trying to simplify things down to not create an experience like what that trainer was trying to save you from, which is to not break you anymore, right? To try to alleviate some of the stress and the baggage that surrounds this, because there is just so much, I guess, nonsense in this industry where somebody can, sell a quick supplement, sell a quick transformation program, crash diet somebody to lose a bit of weight, get their little testimonial picture, and then move on. And that's obviously not of interest to me. And so it's finding guys that are coming to me to where they're like, all right, I'm really ready to do this, and kind of solve it at like a deeper level.
Yeah. And I found out for me, and I think mentally it had to be there first. I look at myself, I think I was it was extreme. I don't recommend this, probably somewhat funny. I'll tell you this just to kind of get a chuckle. But when I started with my trainer, one thing I didn't mention to him was I had just been to the cardiologist a few days before, and I started working out wearing a heart monitor.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a phone call from the office that they thought I was having a heart attack because it was through the roof. But anyway, I don't recommend that, but it was definitely mental. I had to get my head around it. How do you manage that? Because I think that's the toughest part of your job, in my opinion, because I think guys like you know how to get us there, but how do you get us there up here and help us sustain and keep us there?
Yeah, this is the tough part. And this is where, so funny, because anytime somebody, reaches out and it's like, hey man, I'll hop on a call with you. Like there's no big sales pitch coming, because you got to be the right guy to do the work. Mm-hmm. I'm not running an at scale business. We're going to work closely together. So it is of no value to me to hard sell somebody who's not ready to do the work, because it's just a burden for me. Mm-hmm. That said, the mental side of it is huge. And I think there's a couple lanes that have to be addressed. There's the mental, like really setting actual realistic timeframes for guys is useful. And oftentimes they're not going to like to hear what it is. but there are just some like physiological limitations. So we can like discuss that, like, hey, here's really what it's going to look like. And getting them to push aside all the nonsense. Like, you're not going to work out 2 times a day. You're not going to like go on some crazy fasting protocol to solve this, and like really getting them clear and then removing that. And then the other piece is really is helping them kind of, I guess, level up their identity. And I do this in a few ways. So all my coaching is delivered virtually through an app. So it's a little bit of homework, and it's like we craft out we call it the big why. And it's just a few simple questions to determine, like, why do you really want to do this? Like, why is this important to you right now? And like, this does have to be anchored a layer deeper than like, well, my doctor said my heart wasn't good. Like, that might get you going. And if that got you going, that's fantastic. A lot of guys, they're going to need a deeper level. How is it going to affect the business if you're a business guy? And then the other one is often family and kids. And so like, we got to find that deeper big why. That's kind of step one. And then it's really, and this is a practice that you have to do, which is to create some level of new fitness identity. And so oftentimes we can just attach like, hey, if you're a dad, you're going to become the fit dad. And it's really challenging them to execute and think differently in real time. And again, this is a practice. This is something that you're constantly trying to do, but you're trying to take on that new kind of self schema and this idea of, hey, I, as the fit dad, what do I do at the barbecue? Like, how do I now operate? And I think there's an emotional component here where it's very, there's a lot of pushback on this, feels uncomfortable to do. I've used the term exercise before, where like, you got to like play the role a little bit. And then finally, it's setting really, and my whole kind of coaching practice exists on this idea of minimum guaranteed standards and hard lines, and just trying to build congruency with being that guy who does what he says he is going to do. And like, that is the mental game that we start playing. It's like, you're not even worried about losing weight. You're worried about being a guy who does what he says he was going to do. And can you execute on these 2 workouts? And it becomes a whole other different game you're playing. So like, when somebody's like, man, I don't feel like working out today. And it's like, great. You have a fantastic opportunity to use exercise as a tool to become the guy who can do the thing he doesn't want to do. I'm not even worried about the exercise. Who cares? We have an opportunity to do something hard that we don't want to do. And it just becomes a different way of kind of thinking and operating. And as I imagine, once you have a little bit of momentum with this and you start seeing some results and you start feeling good, now you're in kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy of, why wouldn't I do something that actually is serving me?
I love that. That actually, as you probably saw, I started to get a weird grin on my face. It's because I still, to this day, Luke, every couple weeks, probably maybe 6 weeks now, 4 to 6 weeks, I will literally say he's my friend now, but I'll say, hey, I need one of those kind of like, don't tell me what it is. I just need 30 to 45 minutes of absolutely something that is going to suck beyond belief. And it'll be something like 30 minutes of tire sledges, switching off and on, and with no music on, because I just want to make it suck that bad. And but I love that you're saying this, though, because it was how I finally got to that point. What you said, it was almost keeping yourself accountable, because, you had mentioned about the why. And I found out along the way, it's kind of weird, right, Luke? I always had the why. I had the wife, I had the kids, I had the job, right? It finally hit me one day when it isn't even about my why anymore. It's the why not. And I was the why not. Yeah. I was not fit because of me. And once you got that, and I get help from somebody like you, then it starts to come in. But I like that you're challenging and making people accountable. So what do you do when you get that call, though, Luke? And I'm sure you get it. Like, you're making some progress, and then it happens, right? You get that call where it's like, I'm done. How do you work with that?
Yeah, that's funny. So this is where oftentimes I think a part of my job with guys is to what I call closing windows and closing doors, and we're trying to create fewer opportunities for you to escape from doing the work. And so, again, this comes back to like the minimum standards. So like, I have an intake form where I can't tell you how many guys on the question, how many days realistically can you dedicate 45 minutes to an hour to exercise? Can't tell you how many guys write down 7 days. And it's like, you're not going to do 7 days. I'm like, so we cut it in half always. And so again, when you by operating on those minimum standards, and we only judge ourselves off of that minimum standard, we can always execute on more. That helps alleviate probably 90% of those situations, right? But when they do rear their head, then again, we bring in minimum standards. Okay, instead of the whole workout, could you go do 2 exercises? Like, how about 1? And like keep stripping it back to like there's a piece of action. Because like, as you know, like once you kind of get into action, all of a sudden the momentum's there, you're probably going to do the other thing. And then I think the other piece is helping guys understand, and this is like there's like the psychological side and the physiological side, and both are influencing each other. And we can really use the physiology to impact the psychology, right? Go do a workout, you feel better. But understanding the physiology and like rates of fat loss and the impact of like missing a workout, or the impact of like, okay, so you went and ate too much, and understanding it's nowhere near as impactful as you think, and that you are a summation of your actions and not this one moment. Mm-hmm. And this again comes to the psychological side. And I'll be curious to hear if you went through this experience. Take a guy who misses one workout, or eats one bad meal. He will emotionally berate himself internally. Oh, you lazy piece of shit. And just like the negative talk. And the magnitude of that emotion versus, great, you had a good workout. You just cooked an incredibly healthy meal and you ate it. You don't feel really any positivity towards that, yet alone if you do, the magnitude of that emotion is so much lower. So even trying to get guys to actually emotionalize that feeling, and the exercise that we use here is basically, imagine if you have if you have a child or someone you care about, and imagine you were really proud of them. Could be, again, your kid stood up to the class, stood up for somebody who was being bullied at school. You'd be like really proud of your young daughter if she did that. And like, you would feel that. And it's like, you got to start to feel that for yourself when you do these things, and actually raising some of these positive emotions for some of the positive actions, because the deck starts to stack really high against you. And so that's like the psychological side, and there's the physiological side of understanding like, cool, man, you ate too much. Guess what? No big deal. And so to give a hard example in the physiology, right now with a client going through it right now, he had to go out of town, did some little nervous last 2 weekends, had to go out of town, family stuff, hasn't seen him in a while. There's the potential for alcohol, right? Like he's got to put up some hard lines on things he's not going to do, but we get exit data before we go. Cool. Let's get a weigh-in. And then we're going to get return data. And then we're going to get return data like for a few extra days. So this gentleman, he came back, he's 3 pounds heavier. And I go, cool, get another weigh-in tomorrow. And that 3 pounds was gone. It was just, water retention from being out of off plan, if you will. And so for him, that's a great awareness tool now. He understands, hey, I can go on vacation and I can hold the line and not gain any weight. Versus you come back, you see that 233, 235, 238, 24, whatever it is. You're like, oh my God, I gained weight and it's all falling apart. And it's like, no, that weekend wasn't as impactful as you thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot I just threw at you. Sorry.
No, you know what? It's like, I like talking to you guys though, because I lived a lot of it for the last 3 years. Right. And I know like that conversation, I was that guy, so I know for me, I finally got to the point where I made a deal with, my friend, my trainer. I said, listen, a couple things I want from you. Don't coddle me, and you take care of, I don't want to think about the physical. I'll come here. I go there 3 times a week. I will do whatever you tell me to do for 30 to 40 minutes. I don't want to know before. I don't want to know any of it. I'll just do it. And and that gave me the ability to focus more mentally on that other stuff. The joke internally here in my house was I had OCD, which was obsessive cookie disorder, right? Like I could polish off chocolate chip cookies like there was no tomorrow. And I ain't going to lie, I might still do that, but I try to make sure they're not here. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Can
I say something real quick on that?
Yeah.
I think this is really important for people on the other side of this to hear. I too, as the quote, health and fitness professional, will eat all the cookies. I'll eat all the cookies. Ask me how many I want. How many do you have?
Right.
And I think this is really important to understand that like that situation is not unique to you. I'm aware of it. And again, I'm aware of like how that food's going to affect me. So like I have tools to navigate that. And it sounds like you have a very similar one where it's like, that doesn't exist in my house. Doesn't mean I don't ever have a chocolate chip cookie, but what I don't have is chocolate chip cookies in my house because I'm going to eat them all. So don't look at this as like, I always feel like this is something with clients where it's like, I'm this and you're that. And it's like, no. We're navigating the same game, man. Like I'll eat all the cookies too. Right. Like it's the same thing. I've just figured out how to navigate the game. And that's the work that you're doing. As far as the workouts, I'd actually challenge you a little bit on something. And I think you have the right approach. And this is obviously what I do as a coach is I'm handling that all for them, right? Like I'm explaining all of the exercise, but one piece of why I actually moved to an online coaching program was I remember doing personal training and I had a client say to me in real time, he goes, this is easy for you because you're a fitness guy. And this comes back to kind of that mindset and that identity. And I realized this gentleman had not really taken on any of the identity of this. And it was without me, it doesn't work. And I'm dragging him through this. And I actually think with the fitness side, there is a massive growth potential there. And in the beginning, you do need to have it offloaded. I handle all the rep schemes and all of that. But there's something about, and I will challenge you maybe one week to do this, is go put yourself through a challenging workout. Show that you can do that for yourself because there's a growth component there to actually also even just understanding like, hey, these are my reps, these are my weights, this is what I can handle. And then I'm going to go exceed that versus that guy's going to make me. And that for you could be the next evolution. And I think you would find something very empowering about that when you do it.
So good news. I've actually started to do that. So I do twice a week now where I do my own thing.
Perfect.
What I use now, I'll be honest, what I use now with my personal trainer and his equipment now is I have some weightlifting goals I'm trying to get now.
Nice.
One is I'm trying to get to a 500-pound deadlift.
Nice.
I don't have the equipment for that. So Fridays is when I deadlift over there. Right. So I'm at 460 as of now. I'm coming in. I'm hoping by the end of the year I get to it. But I do agree with you. Like, I think I learned a lot along the way that I didn't realize I was learning about just movement and all that stuff. But I definitely in the beginning I needed, and I'll never forget this. One day he had me sitting on the ground and I had to pull myself up to standing with a rope. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Luke, I'll never forget this. Got a little bit up, boom. And to my shock, he just went, literally, that was it. And I'm like, and I knew at that point, I'm like, okay, this is what I need. But so what's the challenges though? I'm curious online, how do you deal with the whole various amounts of equipment, space? Some people don't want to go to a gym. Some people only have their body. How do you deal with all that? Because I think, honestly, that, to me, is a whole lot for you to deal with.
So, yeah, and honestly, everything I do is custom at this point. Obviously, I have some tools that allow me to automate certain things. The majority of guys I work with, not all, but I would say the majority are leveraging a home gym. And this is something like personally, like I work out at home as well. I haven't gone to a gym now outside of after COVID, I went for like 3 months because I was feeling cooped up. But so a lot of guys are leveraging home gyms, and I do have some gym guys. And so from a training standpoint, and this is the other thing, and we can kind of get into the details if we want on this. But for guys who are like looking at starting this, the simplicity of which you can create training programs versus the complexity oftentimes that trainers try to deliver, which I will say oftentimes is to try to not validate themselves, but make themselves be more necessary. There is that side of it, but like you can strip it down to the basics. And again, when we say minimum guaranteed standards with that starting point, because again, I'm working with most of these guys, they're business owners. It's like, they're looking for efficiency. And so it's like, we're going to just hit the biggest bang for our buck movements. We're going to strip it down to basics. We're going to put things on rinse and repeat. Obviously, I do check biomechanics, so they have to send videos for form feedback. I send them a video. But once we're dialed in, and if I have to, I'll hop on a FaceTime and we'll do like a virtual, true corrective exercise session if needed. But generally through a few back and forths, we can kind of dial some things in. And so it's really more about simplifying than adding complexity. So that kind of is, I think, what allows me to navigate that.
That's a great point, honestly, man, about the simplicity of it, because I think, obviously especially for busy professional people, I think what I had said to you for myself about taking the guesswork out, like that stuff. But I think what you're saying and doing is the same thing. It's simplifying things to make sure that people, because if it's simple, or if at least you deem it simple enough, the work might be hard, but I don't think a lot of people might not mind the hard work. It might be more about they make it too complicated in their own head. So I think you're really helping a lot. What are the ages of your clients? What age range you working with?
I would say about on average, 35 to 50, probably.
Gotcha. So curious, and I ask you this because now for me at 51, have you any of your older clients, have you guys started to delve into any of the like hormone stuff, testosterone, all that good stuff? How do you talk to that clients about that?
Yeah, and obviously I'm going to refer out to a doctor for this stuff, but when you get labs done and you look at the labs in the beginning, to me it would make, and again, obviously we're deferring to the doctor, but generally it's like, let's get everything sorted first, nutritionally. Let's get the resistance training program. Let's get sleep sorted. Let's get stress managed. Let's get alcohol reduced. And then actually look at what those numbers are before you hop on TRT and play the pin life. Because once you start that train, it's like, it's a little hard to unwind. So I don't have any current clients right now taking TRT. I have had clients in the past. But to anyone who's considering that, it's like, make sure you clean house first. It's like,
I think that's really good advice. I mean, I'm 51 now, and I had started to lose weight and try to get healthy at 47. I noticed coming into this year, I was really dialed in on nutrition. The workouts were solid. And Luke, I kid you not, man, I was like, I just could not get over this soreness, man. And there was no recovery. And I'm like, you know what?
Let's check it.
I want to go test. So I did. And, they were kind of surprised, to be honest with you, man. I was only at like 330, my T level. And that doctor was like, he's like, you did pretty damn well getting to where you're at 330. So
where you were previously, you were probably a bit lower than that, truthfully.
Yeah. So I probably was. So he had thought that was good, but I actually started this year.
Oh, nice. And obviously you feel fairly significant difference.
Listen, man, I've talked to a lot of people about it. So I went from 330. Now I'm around 1,000 something now. And I'm just like, it's like night and day, man.
Yeah.
And I just, I feel like I'm in my 30s, man.
I have a couple guys right now who will be coming up to that crossroads and determining what they're going to do. I think, I'm going to be, I'll be 39 here in a couple months. And it's interesting that you talk about the recovery piece because, I do jujitsu as well.
Same.
That would be, you do jujitsu as well? Oh, yeah. It's the absolute best. It's the thing I love the most. It's all I want to do. But I will say the piece, as I've gotten quote older, the recovery component versus, when you're a 20-year-old kid, it's like you would go play, or an 17-year-old kid, you go play football, and you're in Philadelphia, is that right? Or it's like Midwest-ish, right? Like it's like, God, we would just slam into each other all day for 4 hours doing 2-a-day practices, and then you come back and do it the next day. Where now the onboarding process of taking off 2 weeks from jujitsu to come back is very significant. So the recovery component, when you start looking into some of the biologicals, is a little intriguing. But to anybody, and myself included, it's like, you obviously want to push that down the line as far as possible until you need.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so the other thing that obviously I'm not a doctor either, but I'm on a minimal dose, and it's like, I kind of at the point I was at, I said, you know what? I think, because as a career, I'm in the medical healthcare data analytics. So there's some really interesting papers about, cardiovascular incidents on men with testosterone under 400 compared to men with T levels over 700.
Interesting.
My dad having had 2 heart attacks before he was 45, I'm like, you know what? I really should start to look into this. But the other thing I'll tell you just real quick is the other thing that really shocked me was, and I didn't expect this, it actually really had a big increase on my cardiovascular in general. Like I'm able to actually run and put more output as far as just like cardio.
Yeah.
Also. So yeah, it's just interesting stuff.
There's a very bright future coming for longevity for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I'll probably be at the tail end of it, but you're at 39. I think you'll be you might be in a little better spot, but so I'll ask you this: what's the ultimate goal? Where are you trying to take all this, and what do you hope to accomplish now?
That's a great question. I haven't been I don't want to say I haven't set any like massively audacious goals. I mean, obviously like the next step is, do I take it to a group component of coaching? I really like, I love, I was on a coaching call today. It went longer than it should have, because it's like, I love the human connection. But that would probably be the next, next rendition of this business, to bring a group coaching component. Because I don't want to say I have everyone doing the same thing. I don't. It's their own journey. But the reality is, and this is what should inspire somebody who's like kind of stuck. It's like, it's more about just getting good foundational basics in that we all kind of need to do, and then tinkering the details. So I do think there is the capacity to expand for that.
I'll tell you, man, I think, again, I told you this, I think you're extremely authentic. I think your approach is great. And I think, for guys like me who are, working the jobs we work and doing what we do, I think, again, I want to have people like you on, because I think it's necessary, man. And I think I always get, and I don't know if you get this, but I always laugh, even like for myself, using a personal trainer or doing whatever I do, and people are like, oh my God, like people right away, it's expensive, they think, right? And then I go, well, like, listen, if I didn't spend money on a personal trainer or for my testosterone, you know what I'd spend that on? Probably going out to eat at a chain restaurant. Yep. Like, I say this to everybody: as you start to age, you find out that your health is the most valuable thing you have, and you're willing to spend whatever you need. I think it's funny, as I'm aging, I'm getting to the point where I'm becoming more of a minimalist. And you're like, you know what? Give me my health and my fitness over any of it, and let me just enjoy it. But so where can people get in touch with you? I mean, I connected on LinkedIn, but I'm sure a lot of people, where else can they get a hold of you?
Sure. Easiest place is fitmanproject.com.
Okay. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. I want people to be able to get a hold of you. And I listen, I hope people see this and maybe you get a couple clients out of this, because I think it'll be worth it. I think you're definitely a good guy doing really, really worthy work, and I hope people will take advantage of it. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, man, and congrats on your journey. You're a walking testament to what I call the de-aging process when you take on this journey. And I'm sure you would agree with this. There is an expansion of life that happens when you reclaim your health and your fitness.
That we're going to end on that, because you said it way better than I tried to say it earlier. I'll have to clip that part out and plaster that all over before this episode airs. So thanks, Luke. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for bringing me on.
No worries. Well, everybody, please take your health seriously. Look for men like Luke. A lot of great information out there. A lot of great men doing, and women doing, a lot of good stuff in this area. So please take your health seriously. And as always, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.